All right, guys, we're going to start the show shortly. Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. A lot we're going to cover right now on today's program. Hit that like button for me. Give the show a like and a share. We work hard for you. Only thing we ask in return is a like and a share of the show. We got some news from the University of Virginia. We have some news from West Main and the streetscape project that is no more. We have the impact of Yellowstone, the Paramount show, on Montana. So a lot we're going to cover on today's program. Give it a like, give it a share. We'll rock and roll in T-minus 15 seconds or so. All right, J-Dubs, my friend, we can get cracking when you're ready. Guys, good Tuesday afternoon. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live here in Charlottesville, Virginia, but our audience is worldwide, countrywide, Virginia-wide, and Central Virginia-wide. And why that's the case is because the I Love CVille network broadcasts all its content across every social media platform known to mankind. So truly an interactive show where you, the viewer and listener, can participate and shape the discussion, participate with and shape the discussion with your thoughts, your comments, your ideas, which we will then relay on air. And if we find the comments provocative enough or compelling enough or inspiring enough, it actually changes how we dictate and determine and the direction of this show. So truly an interactive experience today. A lot I want to cover today, including the West Main Streetscape project, now gone, dead, eliminated, no more. Millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars, hasta luego, peace out, sayonara, so long, no more. We'll talk about that. We'll get counselor feedback on today's program. We will also talk about the notorious trend of consultants. Judah's going to offer some perspective. Our director, Judah Wickower, whose hair is looking quite on point today. Consultants are becoming the way of this jurisdiction, and it's getting expensive, and it's been that way for a while. Whether it's a consultant for the Belmont Bridge, a consultant for the West Main Streetscape, a consultant as a city manager, a consultant to hire the police chief, everywhere you look, consultant, 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 burn taxpayer dollars, burn taxpayer dollars, burn taxpayer dollars. We'll talk about that on today's program. We also want to kind of take a deep dive on Airbnbs. And if you want to get this one ready for our two-shot, Judah, this camera here, we'll talk about Airbnbs and the impact Airbnbs are having on housing affordability. Airbnbs are prevalent, they're common, they are everywhere. And as more of our housing stock is pivoted or repositioned or reimagined as Airbnbs, also known as homestays, you start losing permanent residents that first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, empty nesters, boomers can purchase and live in. So we'll try to take a deep dive and ask ourselves, how are Airbnbs impacting the housing ecosystem and housing affordability? Look, we learned this from Keith Smith, of Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's not affordable housing anymore. It's housing affordability. Affordable housing, pipe dream. Housing affordability, achievable. So how are Airbnbs impacting housing affordability? I'm going to try to put in perspective just how crazy this market is. We all know, but I'm going to relay to you a transaction that happened in Henrico. Actually, it was in Chesterfield. It was an apartment complex. And this apartment complex in Chesterfield, according to Richmond BizSense, in 2017, a 320-unit Hunter Chase complex in Chesterfield County sold for $42 million. Last month, 5 years later, the same complex sold for $80 million. $42 million in 2017, $80 million last month. It basically 2x'd in 5 years an apartment complex. We'll relay this transaction to you and kind of highlight how it's a microcosm of the chaos, the bananas, the nuts that is housing right now in this country, in this commonwealth, in this region. Alex Erpy will join us today. He's the CEO of Emergent Financial Services, friend of the program, smart man, the Antonio Banderas of finance, all-around great guy, and the co-host and co-star of Today y Mañana, which airs on Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network. We'll talk about Target. Target, the discount retailer, aka Target, its stock is getting crushed. Not only today, but for the entire year. Year to date, Target is ugly, and inflation is hammering this retailer. Inventory is not moving. They have a glut of inventory at Target. And as a result, Target is doing massive, deep, aggressive discounts to move this inventory glut. As of right now, the stock was down between 4 and 5% today alone. For the year, Target is down 20% plus year to date.
Amazon's not doing so well either.
Amazon getting crushed, right? And let's cut to the chase. It's not just Target or Amazon or Walmart that are getting crushed. I can't think, I have one stock in my portfolio in 2022 that is humming and positive momentum behind it. And that's EOG, EOG Resources Inc. The only one. Across the board, these stocks are getting hammered, and certainly the retailers, although Kohl's is crushing it right now. EOG Resources explores, develops, produces, and markets natural gas and crude oil. So of course they're on the up and up right now in today's inflationary and gas shortage times. So a lot we're going to cover on today's show, including a UVA golfer who's going to pursue a U.S. Open title. We'll have that story for you. We'll talk about the impact of Yellowstone, the Paramount series. One of the best shows on TV is Yellowstone. It stars Kevin Costner. This show is so popular that it's legitimately causing a land rush, a land grab in Montana, as wealthy urbanites, rich people from cities, flood Montana to buy ranches post-pandemic. This flood of wealthy urbanites is driving up the cost of real estate and land in Montana, and it's directly attributed to Kevin Costner and Yellowstone. That topic and more on the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. We'll get Judah Wickower in the mix on a two-shot J-Dubs. How are you, my friend?
All right.
What's good with you?
Just glad it's not raining and glad it's not 100 degrees outside.
Consultant's a topic that you want to cover today. I think we should relay with the lead of the show. The West Main Streetscape project, which has been in the planning phases for over 10 years, got killed and officially scrapped yesterday. Mayor Lloyd Snook, who's been on this program numerous times, including the last time where he announced his campaign for re-election on the I Love CVille show. He was quoted by NBC 29 as saying this, and I'll read it to you verbatim. If there is some way that it can be sort of brought back later on, it might not be completely wasted, the West Main Streetscape project. But yes, it's pretty well wasted right now. Some of it may well have come from VDOT, in which case we may have to repay some of the money to VDOT. I don't know what the final bills have been sorted out yet, but the project is done, 10 years in the mix, consultants, city councils of 2 or 3 iterations have dealt with this project. Kathy Galvin, who I saw yesterday outside the Macklin building in our studio, former city councilor, former vice mayor, first thing that she mentioned to me when I was walking out the studio, saw her right outside, was, well, the West Main Street project is done. I know how important that was to you. You know how important it was to me. What a bummer. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but she was demoralized and let down. It came down to this: choosing the capital improvement projects that meant the most to the community. And post-pandemic, we have had a glut of capital improvement projects here in the city of Charlottesville. And council chose to prioritize the reconfiguration of Buford ahead of the West Main Streetscape project, which has been in the works for 10 years. Lloyd Snook has said on this show a number of times, that stretch of land or that stretch of road between the university and the downtown mall, arguably the most important stretch of road in the city of Charlottesville. It's the entryway to the university. It's the entryway to downtown. West Main is the connector between grounds and the heartbeat of Charlottesville, which is the downtown mall. And you and I both know, because we follow these topics closely, West Main and Midtown has become a hotbed for dining. It's become a dining district with some of the most popular restaurants out there. Now, I want you to get in the mix here, and you can go the way of the consultant. You can go the way of the West Main Streetscape project, now officially scrapped, killed, murdered, put down like a rabid fox. West Main is no more. You can go the way of taxpayer dollars wasted yet again. Or we could go the way of, hey, we have smart scale money that's free, ready to be contributed to this project. The university eager to contribute to the West Main project as well. And local politics were so convoluted and lacking institutional memory that this project is either ignored, forgotten, or disregarded. Anywhere you want to go on West Main Streetscape, Judah Wickower.
Well, first of all, it just seems a shame. I mean, this isn't just Charlottesville that's using consultants to excess. I think everybody's doing it. I mean, if you look up consultants, you find. I mean, maybe that's where all the people are going that aren't
to go to work,
taking these jobs.
They're not working waiter jobs. They're taking jobs as consultants at cities.
I mean, if you look at the costs of consultancy, it's I think we're all
pays pretty well.
I think we're all in the wrong job.
Well, it pays pretty well. Yes.
Yeah. And what do they do if whatever percentage of the things that we consult about just get scrapped? I mean, that's what, $350,000 here, a few $100,000 there. I mean, is that money that we have to just toss around when we're considering how much to raise tax so that we can fix a school?
Great question. We don't have a city manager that's full-time. We have a consultant. We don't have a police chief. We hired a consultant to hire a police chief, right? Building permits aren't getting processed on time. We learned that from Neil Williamson. We got massive vacancies in City Hall, although those are improving of late. I mean, eventually, us, the populace, we're the bosses. It's our money that's keeping this jurisdiction alive. It's our money, the viewers and listeners, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually, we need to put our heads up in the air and say, what the hell is going on? Because this certainly is not how we run our business at I Love CVille. We don't run our business at VMV Brands this way. And we certainly don't run this podcasting network or the business brokerage business we've launched this way. We don't throw money to strangers who come in here and offer yada here, yada there, little guidance here, little guidance there, and then peace out. Mm-hmm. The consultants don't have skin in the game. Their reputations and their legacies in this community aren't important to them because they're here for a cup of coffee, a New York Minute, and then they go out to the next mercenary scenario, the next hired gun scenario that's on their calendar.
Yeah.
Am I reading this wrong?
No, definitely not. And I mean, you pointed out the sign on the downtown mall. What is it, Yogo?
Yeah, yesterday. Recount that for the viewers and listeners. We were walking to City Hall, you and I.
I don't even know where to start. It's got a B on it. I'm not sure what that has to do with anything.
It's the worst branding I've ever seen.
And it looks like somebody created the sign on MS Paint.
Yeah, it was clip art.
Yeah.
And you know what we should do for tomorrow's show? Let's see if we can pull one of the flyers or the signs off a post and show it to the viewers and listeners. You think you can find it online?
I don't know. Let's see.
See if you can find it online.
Was it Yogo?
I don't know. It was de-escalating violence, call to action, was it not?
Something like that.
That's what it was all about, was de-escalating violence.
Is that what it was, really?
Yeah, it was a violence de-escalator. So
I mean, it said no arguments or stop arguing.
It was about violence.
It wasn't very clear.
It wasn't very clear. So where were you going to go with this reference?
I mean, somebody paid to have those printed. Somebody paid to have someone design it.
There's a campaign that's going on that's all over the city of Charlottesville, a de-escalation of violence campaign. And one of the call to action elements of this campaign are flyers that have been positioned all over Charlottesville and certainly the downtown mall. And this campaign, the essence of the campaign, has great inspiration. Don't fight. Limit violence. Keep crime down. That's the essence of the campaign. But the campaign was executed so freaking poorly that you literally have a bee that is the superhero of the campaign. Yes, a buzzing bee that can sting you. That's the superhero of the campaign.
I've got the bee.
You've got the image?
I got the bee, not the whole sign, but it's, yeah, I'll put
You
the
found
bee-
it on Google Image?
I'll put the bee up in a second.
Judah Wickhauer is going to put it on screen here. He makes the point because the campaign is executed so poorly that the whole point of the campaign, the de-escalation of violence, is lost because the visuals of the campaign are such amateurish and so poorly executed. I was going to use profanity, but I chose not to. So poorly executed. And it's an example of whoever's rolling this campaign out doesn't have a true feel for what the city's all about. How much money went into the West Main Streetscape project? We as voters and as taxpayers, we should insist that local governments say, this is how much of taxpayer dollars was lost by the West Main Streetscape project, a project that was going to optimize the connection of the university and the downtown mall down West Main, a project that was going to have pedestrian and bicycle improved safety lanes, a project that was going to have amenities and a better look, essentially the beautification of West Main Street.
And so I think my big problem is, it seems like all these projects, they're all all encompassing. There's never like, okay, can we do some of this? Can we, if part of the beautification of West Main is trees, can we plant new trees? If part of it is...
I just want to finish the projects. You know, one of the things that I love about my wife, one of the many things that I love about my wife, and sweetheart, if you're watching the show, please let me know.
The bee is on screen.
The bee is on screen? Look at the screen, everyone. The bee is on screen. This is how bad this project is. You know what the many things I love about my wife? Many things. She's a get stuff done kind of person. She literally will start a project, finish it, and get the next project started. She loves to cross things off her list. Mm-hmm. She starts something and she finishes it. Is it too much to ask of local government to start a project, finish the project, and then go on to the next project? That would keep these projects from living in this purgatory. So many projects are percolating in purgatory right now. What's percolating in purgatory in the city of Charlottesville? The Belmont Bridge. What's percolating in purgatory right now? West Main Streetscape. Heck, West Main Streetscape just went into HE double hockey sticks. It didn't go to the pearly gates. It's no longer percolating in purgatory. It's in the fiery pits of HE double hockey sticks. So much percolates in purgatory when it comes to City Hall and this jurisdiction. Finish a project. Move to the next one. Finish a project. Start a new one. If a project takes 10 years to complete, or many consultants have to be hired to get advice or counsel on how the project should be pursued, perhaps you should table that project and not start it. Because over a 10-year period of time, the whole freaking world changes. Look at what's happened over the last 10 years. The last 10 years, we've gone from one of the best bull markets in American history to a pandemic, to quarantining, to shutting down the country, shutting down Charlottesville, to downtown being a ghost town, to a war, Russia and Ukraine, stimulus money, obscene gas prices, inflation out of control, groceries out of control, the dollar losing value every single damn day, geopolitical uncertainty. This is what happens when you take a decade to finish a damn project. What am I missing here? I'm getting a little fired up, as you can tell. What am I missing here, Judah?
I don't know. You're right.
A decade to finish something. How long is the Belmont Bridge? As long as we've worked downtown, right?
Yeah. You haven't been able to walk on one side of it for about as long as I can remember.
As long as you can remember, right?
Yeah.
Remember when we first started working downtown? Before we bought in the Macklin building, we were above South Street Brewery, remember?
Mm-hmm.
You used to park under the Belmont Bridge.
Yeah.
You don't park under the Belmont Bridge now, do you?
I don't think you can now.
You can't. You can't. How long has the Belmont Bridge been percolating in purgatory? Paul MacArthur watching the program. Paul, what do we dub? The king of Avon, Paul MacArthur? Avenues, Paul MacArthur? All around nice guy. Shoot, Paul, I just remembered. I need to reply back to you about coffee. We will get a coffee. You'll get a response from me, Paul. The messenger inbox gets crowded, and I just realized I never responded back to you. Paul MacArthur says this. I think we dubbed him the king of Avon, Paul MacArthur. Ideas and plans get you elected and reelected. Saying no to good ideas because they aren't realistic or affordable lose elections. Damn good comment, Paul. I'm going to respond back to the comment you just left. Paul MacArthur. Bingo. Damn good comment. King of Avon. Did you hear what he just said? Ideas and plans get you elected and reelected. Saying no to good ideas because they aren't realistic or affordable causes you to lose elections. Brilliant. Brilliant. Don't embark on journeys. Don't embark on projects that have no clear-cut finish lines. Mm-hmm. We have learned, take the last 3 years of life. Take the last 2.5 years take the last 2 years of life. A project that started in early 2020. And look at all the extenuating circumstances that project that started in early 2020 has gone through. Pandemic, quarantine, mm-hmm. war, bull market, bear market, mom and pops barely able to survive. Would you say election?
Yeah.
Election.
A lot changes in just 2 years, so yeah.
Republicans taking over Richmond. Shock at the governor's race. Travis Hackworth is watching. He's the king of Danville. The sad thing is it's easily $100,000 per consultant company, if not more. He says a consultant is just someone who takes your watch away to tell you what time it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's freaking brilliant, Travis. A consultant is just someone who takes your watch away to tell you what time it is. Amen. Gosh, Travis, you just got an amen from the very intelligent Alex Erpy in the green room, who's got a very sharp shirt on. I can't wait to pick his brain today. Amen from Alex Erpy. I'm tagging you in the comments over here to Travis and Danville. So West Main is no more. This is what we need to find out. How much to the cent? We should figure out to the cent. How much to the cent of taxpayer dollars was wasted with the West Main Streetscape project? Because I bet you it's millions of dollars. We deserve that answer. When we see Mayor Snook outside the studio on the way to the bathroom or the exit or entrance of the building, let's ask him that. We ask him in respectful fashion. We love Mayor Snook. He's a friend of the program. Mm-hmm. He was the lead advocate of West Main Streetscape. He was the man pushing this through. It did not get pushed through. I would bet if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, McGill, Payne, and Juan Diego Wade kiboshed this project. McGill and Payne are big-time school supporters, and Juan Diego Wade was on the school board. And there's limited dollars, and they prioritize school over West Main. It's not, what's the phrase when it's like, it's not one or the other?
Not mutually exclusive.
It's not mutually, thank you, Alex. It's not mutually exclusive. To Alex Erpy, thank you. We can do school reconfiguration and a streetscape project. They're not mutually exclusive. Just because you want West Main Streetscape does not mean you're opposed to Buford and school and equity. It doesn't. And don't let anyone spin that and say otherwise. All right, before we get Alex Erpy, we're going to bring him on set here in 120 seconds. I want to relay the impact of Yellowstone, and if any of these topics tickle your fancy, we can lead with them. I wanted to throw Target to you to start, but if any of these other topics, Alex, tickle your fancy, we could lead with them. Paramount has got a show called Yellowstone that stars Kevin Costner. It's one of the most popular shows on television. Do you even call it TV anymore? It's one of the more popular shows on streaming. Is that the better phrase?
I'd say streaming.
So you say streaming?
Yeah.
It's one of the more popular shows on streaming?
Definitely not the same thing as TV. I mean, if a show makes it past 2 seasons, it's probably one of the more popular shows around.
Yeah.
If it's on streaming.
So I would say this: if we say the show is one of the most popular shows on streaming, that is far more competitive than one of the most popular shows on TV.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
It'd be way easier to be a popular show on TV than streaming.
Yeah.
Because there's less competition on TV.
Right.
So Yellowstone, one of the most popular shows on streaming, speaks to its significance.
Yeah.
And we're going to put this in perspective. The show Yellowstone is set in Yellowstone, Montana. Okay? And Yellowstone is so popular that urbanites, wealthy folks from big cities. You don't like urbanites?
No, I just think the whole idea is hilarious that all these rich people are
Sprinting
all of
to
a sudden
Montana
moving
and
to
buying
Montana
ranches
because of
a show?
Because of a TV show.
But is that ridiculous? Or is it the exact same phenomenon of wealthy people sprinting to Charlottesville because of 4 years of fun they had as a student at UVA? So you got wealthy urbanites sprinting to Bozeman, Montana.
But people aren't sprinting to Charlottesville because they had fun at UVA.
Yes, they are.
No, they may be moving back. Some of them may be exiting where they lived before because they're more capable of working online or from home. But I don't think people are sprinting here just because they had a good time at UVA.
Wealthy urbanites are coming to Charlottesville,
Yeah, I'm not denying
keeping
that.
their big city jobs, and they're choosing Charlottesville because they waxed nostalgic of 4 years of undergrad at the university.
I don't know if I agree with that. At least not the way you're painting it. Because they're not sprinting here. It's like you've got
They're moving here because
You've got
they had
decades.
fond memories of Charlottesville.
some of them maybe.
4
not-
years I had at UVA were some of the 4 best of my life.
Okay. I don't know what that has to do with.
It went a long way to encouraging me to stay in Charlottesville as opposed to
Yeah, that's understandable.
going somewhere else. And if it had that influence on me, heck, Alex is a UVA grad. Stayed in Charlottesville to start his company, his family business. Those 4 years are such an impressionable time of life, this rite of passage that we call college. the time right before as you're emerging into adulthood, they're so impressionable
Yeah.
that they influence your decision making years to come. Reunions, sporting events, coming back with your kids, meeting your fellow friends
Right.
from college,
Definitely.
moving to the town.
I'm not denying any of that, but to say that it's a bunch of UVA grads that are sprinting here from other places, I think, I don't think that's the reason why they're sprinting here.
I think it's one of the reasons. We'll agree to disagree on that. Travis Hackworth in Danville says it's the Little House on the Prairie effect. Modern day Oregon Trail bolstered by Netflix, Hulu, and Apple. He's absolutely right. I'll give you some numbers to put it in perspective. These are phenomenal numbers. Okay, phenomenal numbers. The lower end of the spectrum is really getting hammered by this phenomenon. When season 4 was shot on location last year in Montana, the University of Montana estimated $72 million went to the state directly from the crew during production. Another $85 million went to the state from an economic boost. The study did not showcase or try to characterize the free advertising Montana got from Yellowstone. The $72 million the crew spent during production is tangible, and the $85 million economic boost where people came and saw the ranch and saw the state is also tangible and trackable. They're not characterizing how much advertising this show has given Montana in totality. From 2010 to 2020, the state's population grew 10%. 10%, that's a massive growth.
Is that when the show started?
Show's in what, season 5? So that's more of a broader range than the 5-season show.
Yeah, but streaming seasons aren't necessarily the same as a TV season.
Well,
It doesn't necessarily mean 5 years.
Paramount releases the episodes weekly. It's not all released up front like other series.
Okay.
So when the new season comes out, you literally have to do it as if you're watching appointment television. All right, it's Sunday night, it's time
That
for
still doesn't
Yellowstone.
necessarily mean that a season comes once every year. I'm just saying, with a lot of streaming, it's, you could have...
This particular show is once a year.
Stranger Things has some pretty big gaps between its seasons. And
This show's once a year.
Okay.
Do you watch this show, Judah?
I don't have Paramount.
Okay. I got it just for this. It's damn good.
Well, how did you start watching it originally if you didn't have Paramount?
It was on television. It was on the Paramount Network on TV.
Oh, I didn't even realize I don't have
There's
cable
a Paramount
anymore.
Network.
I don't
on
have
TV.
cable anymore.
I know you don't. There's a Paramount Network on television. So that's how. Let's get Alex in the mix. We're mindful of his time here. We'll table Airbnb's impact and Richmond apartment complex doubling in value in 5 years, and a UVA golfer set to play in the United States Open, into the U.S. Open. Alex Erpy, the CEO of Emergent Financial Services, on the talk show. Smart guy, great businessman, great family man, all-around A-plus guy, and has turned into just a phenomenal broadcaster. MJ Arquette says the first couple seasons are on Netflix, I think. I believe she is right on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think it started 2018,
2018.
to my recollection.
Are you, if any of the Erpy men are going to wear tight Wrangler jeans, button-down shirts, cowboy hats, and ride a horse, that's probably you, right?
Maybe Michael
Really?
You think Michael would?
would probably be more likely than me.
Okay, because I see you doing it too, and you could pull it off.
I might try it once. Like I haven't ridden a horse in a long time.
Have you got? So you have been on the? Have you been on a horse, Judah?
I don't think I have.
The thing that is startling about being on a horse is how high up you are, and how powerful the beast is between your legs. You are at the absolute mercy of the horse you are riding. The absolute mercy. I want to talk, Travis, we'll get to your comments here. Grayson, we'll get to your comments. And Jennifer, we'll get to your comments as well. I want to talk open-ended for you. And MJ says Amazon Prime, not Netflix. Thank you, MJ. Show is yours. Where do you want to begin? Any topic you want to cover?
Right? The movement of people is always interesting because I think these things happen. And then I remember, I don't know if you recall 2020, 2021, huge articles about the influx of people moving down to Florida. What the articles don't often mention is that there is outflow as well, because people who had moved to Florida prior realized it's really humid, it's hot all the time.
Rains every day.
And so my suspicion is a lot of the people who move to Montana will discover, as I know from my girlfriend who was originally from there, will discover that there are actually only like 2 months of summer, and that winter is from about October
Winter is coming.
to May. Winter is coming.
And when winter is coming in Montana, it doesn't leave.
And when she went to visit her parents, I said, so what's the temperature? And I'm thinking, this is the midst of it being like, 10 degrees in Charlotte. So I'm like, oh, it's so cold here. And she's like, oh, it's -9. And I'm like,
It was 10. When was it 10 degrees in Charlotte?
we got that little like cold spell, if you remember, like in January.
Oh man.
The really cold spell where it hit like at night. But
Yeah.
I mean, during the
Yeah.
day, I mean, it's like
I gotcha.
32. And then maybe at night, that's when we had like what's called the Arctic freeze stuff. But in Montana, you're talking like -9 is normal. And the worst it can get is like -40. And I'm like, it's crazy. So I think that it'll probably be a
doubt.
little bit of a rude awakening if you're an urbanite from the East Coast moving there and you realize that it's like for 2 months, it looks like the show. And then for the rest of the time, you're just
It's
cold.
brutal. It's brutal.
I lived in Maine, and we've got family in Minnesota, and I went to Minnesota during the winter, for Christmas one time, and
That's when you were working here, I believe.
no, this is back when I was living in Maine.
Oh, okay.
And Maine, I mean, Maine is a coastal, but it's up north,
Mm-hmm.
and it was nothing. Like, we got to Minnesota, and it was like -19 outside, and at night.
That's
It's
brutal.
Insanely
That's
cold.
absolutely brutal. That's absolutely brutal. We woke to some brutal news today, especially for us that have Target in our portfolio,
Oh, boy.
including yours truly. Target plans aggressive, deep discounts to move stagnant and stale inventory. Basically, they poorly merchandised most of their stores and have significant overstock of inventory. And Target has told the market, it's told its investors that deep discounts and aggressive discounting
To hurt profit.
is on the near horizon and profit is going to be impacted. Show us yours on Target.
It's interesting. At first, I was a little concerned about it because you never want to see. So too much inventory is usually one of those leading indicators of recession. You never want to see businesses and companies having too much inventory. However, in this particular case, it seems to be very concentrated to Target, and very much we are aggressively trying to get rid of product rather than we just have too much inventory in general because no one's buying. It seems a little more targeted to they may have made mistakes in terms of their merchandising. So I'm not seeing repeat among all. I mean, some of the other companies in the related businesses fell a little bit this morning when Target fell in trading, your Walmart and so forth. But the market as a whole seems to have recovered slightly, and I'm not seeing news out of those companies that they are seeing the same thing. So as long as it's a Target-only phenomenon, I think it's more it's less of a concern because it's more, I mean, if you have Target stock, it is a concern, but less of a concern from an overall market standpoint because it doesn't seem like this is an industry-wide phenomenon that retail is sitting there with huge inventories yet.
Walmart missed earning expectations.
They did.
And also said it had an inventory glut. Gap, in a similar scenario here. I want to try to localize this here. Target and Walmart, your two top retailers, right? I mean, Amazon, we're gonna call e-com retailer.
Yeah, it's a different animal.
It's a different animal. So Target and Walmart, your two top brick and mortar retailers here. What can we extrapolate from the Target and Walmart news?
Both having.
Earnings misses and a glut of inventory. What can we extrapolate from a localized standpoint?
From a local standpoint, it's difficult to say. I mean, obviously, you don't ever want to see high inventories and a drop in consumer confidence, which would happen if you begin to see declining retail sales.
Yeah.
Right? On the flip side, locally, that doesn't necessarily, it could be one of two things, right? Obviously, if people are shifting from buying big box to buying local, that's a plus. if people are cutting across the board.
Do you
and
think
now
it's
they're
that, or do you think it's cutting across the
my
board?
fear is it's cutting across
Me
the
too.
board.
Me too.
That's my gut from just what I'm seeing locally and the interviews that I've been having is that it's cutting across the board, and rather than a shift from big box to retail, to local retail.
That's what I'm worried about.
Everybody's just spending less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the point that we extrapolate from this Target news. Because take a perfect example. Our advertising agency, V&V Brands, we represent Animal Connection. Animal Connection is a local retailer. We want everything in Patty Zeller's store to keep moving, as it has done in the 6 years that we've worked alongside Patty Z, who we think is the retailista of the year in Central Virginia.
Yeah, I think. I love Patty's model, and I think she's in a good spot, particularly because people aren't going to stop feeding their pets.
Yeah, I think that's a great call.
That is.
And she also does a great job with merchandising.
Yeah.
She's pivoted her model where she
Right.
doesn't keep a lot of back stock. Instead, she keeps her wholesale providers, her purveyors on speed dial. And when she's down to one SKU left in a certain line, she immediately gets on the horn and says, get me more SKUs immediately.
Yeah.
Where Target and Walmart, because of the depth of their customers, their customers are so robust in number, they got to have back stock immediately.
Plus,
Not-
remember, they're benefiting from economies of scale.
Purchasing power.
Yeah, purchasing power.
Yeah.
So if they're buying only as much as they need and they're not ordering large quantities, they don't have that purchasing power anymore. They can't operate like a Patty Zeller because their great advantage is that they're trying to undersell someone like an Animal Connection. They know, come to us because we're cheaper than your local retailer, but they do that because of the scale at which they purchase.
I think they also have a problem with the broad spectrum of their items. When you're Target or Walmart, and you're having to cover everything from lawn supplies to clothing to groceries. I mean, that's got to be a massive effort to just keep up with exactly what is hot and what's not. And if trends change and you get stuck with 500,000 of X in the warehouse, like, what do you do with that?
So we got comments coming in. Xavier, I've missed your comments while Alex has been on the show. We will get to your comment here in a matter of moments, Xavier Yerpe. We've dubbed him the closer. He may or may not be my favorite Yerpe. I don't say that when Alex is around here. Travis says Target's problem is their inventory is pretty standard across the board, and they rarely tailor their inventory to the areas they're located in.
They may also suffer from being a slightly more, like, they've marketed themselves as a slightly more luxury alternative to Walmart.
Yeah.
So, which means when times are good,
People are going
right, luxury items do well. When times are tough, people may shift their spending habits from Target to Walmart.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you go down the chain.
Well said. Well said. Woody Fincham says this, that Amazon effect on stock. Supply chains are so different now than they used to be. Woody, we appreciate you watching and commenting on the program. Xavier, sooner or later, inflation, especially high energy prices, gas, is going to impact the consumer. We have talked about this throughout 2022. Do we see less disposable income on proverbial Main Street with customer bases? Or do we still believe that Charlottesville, because of the university, is darn near close to recession proof? I had a conversation yesterday with someone that was looking at purchasing a business. And I'm representing the
We are not recession proof.
the sellers. And the buyer who's touring my client's business says, I'm seriously considering making this purchase. And yes, I know we're heading into a recession, but I believe that this community is insulated from a lot of national trends. You made that comment. I had both the buyers and sellers in the same room. It's very precarious when you do that. You have to navigate and thread that needle very delicately. I did not say anything after
When
he
you
made that comment. I did not acknowledge that comment. I did not say anything as someone who's just trying to get to the closing
Of course,
table.
exactly.
I did not acknowledge that comment. Would you like to acknowledge that comment, Alex Yerpe?
So, I disagree with the notion of recession proof. Now, the magnitude of how a recession impacts a place can be different depending where it is. In other words, the fact that there is a not monopoly employer, but you'd call it very large employer.
I'd say UV is a monopoly.
In some ways,
Locally.
Yeah, locally. I mean,
Yeah.
oligopoly, you can put it,
There
where
you
it's
go.
one
That's
of
better.
many large controlling factors, but it's significant. Employer means, yes, are we less susceptible to certain national trends? In other words, given the growth in Charlottesville, would we be able to ride out a recession a little better? Possibly, but I don't think any place can be
Completely
recession-proof.
recession-proof.
Particularly not when, let's face it, we are still talking about declining real wages. So it doesn't really matter, right, that, yes, could you be in a place where you're not going to lose your job, and wages are increasing. If inflation's still running at 8 and 9, no one's wages are going up 8 and 9%. Right. So you are not inflation proof, which means sooner or later you need to cut down. Like, you will be forced to spend less, which means by definition you are on a recessionary trend there. So no place can be recession proof, particularly when we're talking about the possibility of a recession caused by inflation, because no place is inflation proof.
Xavier agrees. Xavier Europe, Seville is not, exclamation in all caps, recession proof. Every city is impacted differently, but it will get impacted. Larry Fink, Xavier Europe says, just yesterday mentioned that inflation is here to stay for longer than anyone would like.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we know. We're seeing that.
We're not seeing that.
We're seeing that. The pain at the pump is freaking real, dude. I was coming into town today from eastern Albemarle County. I think it was $4.69.
I saw.
Did you see 5?
I saw $4.90 last night.
Locally?
Yeah, near 5th Street, I think.
$4.90.
$4.90.
That's the highest I've seen locally.
Yeah.
So that was what? The Tiger Fuel
It was the Shell, I think.
Across the way?
Across the way.
Okay.
Which means Tiger Fuel may even have been higher, but I couldn't see it in my rearview mirror because I had left already.
I've been seeing 450, 460 over by Rio.
Correction. It was not 4, it was 469.
$4.69. That's what I saw.
469 is what it was.
That's the highest I've seen
469.
so far.
Yes.
I mean, I held off getting gas the other day to drive around a little bit. I'll waste the gas to go look for a cheaper price.
I
eventually went to Kroger because even though I haven't been shopping there much, I still use my Kroger card and,
that's what I was gonna ask.
I get 3 cents off.
Yeah.
That's what I was going
It's
to ask.
not much, but
We time it to go to Costco. But we'll time the family and say, hey, you take this car today because you'll be passing by Costco and you can.
nice. So you guys have one card that you just share around for when everybody needs to.
Well, I won't say whether or not, I won't say publicly whether or not we do that, but yeah, basically.
that's
well,
smart.
let me just say that whether or not you do it, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I was to say that's brilliant.
Exactly, no, but that's basically what you have to do.
That's do what you got to do. So I got the question for you. What is it at Costco with the discount? What was yours at Kroger with the discount? Because I mentioned this on a show maybe last week. No, Real Talk with Keith yesterday. Tiger Fuel. I'm a big fan of the Suttons, and I joined the Tiger Fuel Rewards Club. And with the app, every purchase you make, you get points. And I had 2,500 and some points. Once you got to 2,500, you got 50 cents off a gallon of gas. So with
50
that
cents off 1 gallon?
No, 50 cents off every gallon that you pump on that time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So so with that 50 cent
Line up
discount,
your family behind you.
yeah, seriously. I should have just passed it. Now you have to pay in advance. So for that to work, I would have to be like,
How can you pay in advance? if
give me
you're filling up-
$200 of gas with the 50 cent discount.
How do you pay in advance if you're filling up your truck?
You go into the convenience store and you say, I want X amount of dollars in gas. And then they ring it up at the 50 cent off discount per gallon.
What if you go over?
What do you mean? If you say I want $50 and you can
Well,
only put
like-
$40 in your tank?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
screwed.
if you're trying to count.
I mean, you could do some math. I mean,
Yeah,
if you know you have
but
17
plus-
gallons in your car,
Yeah,
and you
you-
take
you-
50 cents off, you just do some math.
Well, plus you just wait till it's like almost
That's
zero.
what I did.
Like you basically lied into
I toasted
the,
it on fumes.
You toasted it on
It
fumes?
said on my odometer I had 3
Yeah.
miles left till I was out of
Cool.
gas. So I knew to use the discount when I was completely empty.
Yeah.
Because there's no point of using the discount when you have
No,
three-quarters of a tank.
And so you just calculate. You
That's how I did
figure-
it.
Yeah.
It's your version of Costco. Driving by Costco.
Exactly.
So what is the Costco gallon with the discount? Xavier, do you know
I
that?
haven't been. It wasn't my turn recently, so I don't know what it is now.
436, he says.
436. Okay, so it's pretty.
That's not bad.
No, Tosto is pretty significant.
With the 50 cent off at Tiger Fuel, I got down into the threes, the high
That's-
threes.
wow.
But you still have to have the points to get there, so it's not a true,
Yeah, and that's
true read.
and that's one fill up.
That's one fill up. That's exactly right.
And
That's
how
one
often do you get to the points that allows that?
fill. Not that often.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2,500 points is tough to get, and it's one fill up.
At Kroger, I think it's just 3 cents off whatever
When you
the
use the
cost is
card?
whenever, and then as you get points, I think if you spend, I usually shop at Food Lion just because it's more convenient to me, but I think I remember that at Kroger, if you spent over $100 or at least $100 that equated to 100 points, you'd get 10 cents off for like the rest of the month.
But as a
maybe.
single man, you're a single man here, single but ready to mingle. Folks that are watching and listening to this show, single but ready to mingle. As a single man, how often do you spend $100 a week on groceries? Never, right?
Not very often.
Yeah. When's the last time you dropped a C note on groceries?
In one day, probably I can't even remember.
Never, right?
But at the same time, I think that's monthly. Like they
okay.
I believe Kroger resets your points every month. So if you make it to 100, if you make it to 100 points, I think it's roughly equal to $100. But I think some things don't add points. Like probably you don't get points for buying alcohol.
You don't get points for booze or cigarettes. Yeah.
So, anyways, if within a month you get to 100 points, then I think it's for the rest of the month, you get 10 cents
You
off.
get the discount. That's nice. Carol Thorpe says this. Carol Thorpe is the queen of Jack Jewett for Judah and Alex. No doubt we will hit $5 per gallon by Independence Day. I remember the gas crisis of the 70s when I was in high school, and it didn't get that high per gallon. $5 a gallon gas by Independence Day, you think?
Getting closer.
Might be
July
before.
4th. Yeah, to be honest, I think she's right.
Yeah.
I would even take the before.
I would take the
the
four.
under instead of the over.
Over, under on July 4th, are you taking
That's
$5
scary.
gas before July 4th or after?
Man, holy shit, that's less than a month away.
Yeah?
Man, I'm gonna be optimistic and say
Oh.
after.
There you go.
Just
Judah's-
on hope.
Okay, there you go. The roles
I hope-
reversed
I
a
hope
little bit.
Judah is right
I
and
hope
we
you
are
are right,
wrong.
Judah. I really hope you are right. I'm going to take before the 4th of July.
It just does to show you how people change in the behavior and doing different things. I know people that have literally swapped. They shopped at Wegmans and have now they now go buy things at Food Lion because there's just that you just gotta save where you can. So things you used to just buy everything at
Yeah.
one place. Now you're like, well, you know what?
I know
This
is
thing that I
cheaper
can
somewhere
find there
else.
cheaper. I'm just gonna wait till I need it and a bunch of things at Food Lion and shop it there.
That literally came up yesterday in the showing that I did. That's why we didn't have I Love Seville show yesterday. Harris Teeter has milk that's considerably priced below the grocery competitors. So many
Oh,
of the
really?
folks in the restaurants that you talk about tight margins. You're talking about trying to scrape every penny out of a business. That's what the restaurants are doing locally to survive. And they're taking their shopping and they're sprinkling it all over grocery stores to get the best deals possible, as opposed to just going to one store like Alex was saying and buying everything. Now, there is opportunity cost of an employee's time to do that, to shop multiple stores. I mean, if you're going Wegmans for something, Reed's for your meats, Wegmans for your produce and your chicken.
Charlottesville is small enough that that's not really much of a problem.
It still
with
takes time, dude. Going Teeter, Food Lion, Wegmans, and Costco.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
opportunity
But
cost.
depending on your volume, it's worth it.
Well, and if the employee that you're sending is a $2.13 an hour employee, the opportunity cost ain't that great because they're working for $2.13 and not tips. Very well could be what's happening here with some of the restaurants. Hey, your shift started at 4, the first table's not coming until 5:30, hit Teeter for some milk, and then
Yep.
finish up at the Kroger on Barracks Road for the protein. And then your opportunity cost isn't as great. So how do you characterize, and you get this question constantly, are we at peak inflation? Do we need to bust out the crystal ball or the wand
It's
over there?
difficult to say. I'm not sure even the crystal ball or the wand would help
Some
This
data
far.
points suggest yes. Other data points suggest no way, Jose.
That's the issue. That's the challenge we're facing, right? Because you sit there and you say, all right, people are already adjusting their behavior. Particularly if demand stalls out, right? Then you would say, okay, if demand's stalling out, where's the impetus for further inflation? On the one hand, but on the flip side, of course, the war in Ukraine is going nowhere right now. That there looks like there's no resolution one way or the other on that. You also sit there and sometimes we've been seeing, particularly a couple months ago, PPI hit a level that CPI has not hit yet. So PPI is the producer price index. So that's the inflation producers are seeing. That thing passed 9 a few months ago. We haven't yet seen 9 at CPI. Does that mean it's not going to happen, that for whatever reason those costs did not get passed on? Does that mean we just haven't yet seen 9% inflation, but it's coming? There's just no way to tell at this point whether it has peaked. Well, what I think is pretty clear is that, peak or no peak, this is going to be more of my concern is that this is looking much more like a plateau than a very tall volcano mountain. In other words, this is not a V-shaped peak where you hit the peak and then you really come back down quickly. We have been sitting at 7 and 8% month after month.
Yeah.
So which I think is worse than the higher peak.
100% worse.
That's the problem we're
Yeah.
looking at here, right? If inflation had spiked, let's face it, we all kind of expected inflation to spike after
the
2020,
pandemic.
right? I mean, think about it. I mean, everything drops. Oil drops to negative pricing. You know that if oil just goes back to normal, you're going to have a spike in inflation.
Plus the free money.
And the free money. So that's not the shock that we had a big increase in inflation. The problem is that it has been very persistent and it is a long peak.
It won't leave.
It won't go away.
It's like that family member that comes over for a holiday and next thing you know, it's like midnight and they're still hanging out on the couch. You're like, dude, everybody else is gone. You only got invited because of your blood, and we don't really want you here. It's midnight. Go away.
Exactly.
That's what's happening here.
Exactly. Just think about just the basic math, right? If you have $100 in inflation, let's say you get, one time, 10%, oh my goodness, inflation thing, you got 90, and now it stays at 90. But if you get 8% year after year, 100, 98, 80-something, 70, it keeps draining because it's on top of its, just so you know, we talked about compound interest and how you want to get in the market compound. Inflation is like a bad version of compound interest.
A worse
because your 8% decrease in this month's dollar year over year is on top of an 8% decrease in last month's dollar year over year. So each dollar is worth less
Every month.
every month. And that is being compounded on the dollar that's already worth less. So this month's dollar, which is worth less than last month's dollar, has already been decreased in value because last month's dollar was worth less than the dollar before that. So it's just a constant pressure that really just sucks away your ability to save and basically the longevity of anybody's funds.
You want to add to that? I think that's very well said.
I mean, I don't know how much we trust anything that comes out of the Fed, but they're
Jay Powell watches this show.
yeah, right. We'll see him change his. Anyways, I think the Fed is saying that inflation is not, or at least some people, and I'm looking at something here. Cleveland Federal Reserve president is saying that inflation has not peaked yet. That we need more rate hikes. So
Xavier says this: inflation is based on an index. Since the index is higher, then it's tougher to see higher peaks. He also says if inflation is at 100 and you get a 10-point increase, that is a 10% increase. If the index is at 200, a 10-point increase is only 5%, but the pain is the same.
yeah,
Xavier Europe right there. Alex, we are 6 months into 2022. Vulnerable, the economy at best. The back 6 months are shaping up to be very much like the first. We do have a potential catalyst in the back 6 months with midterms. Do you see November elections have any impact positively on what this economy does? Because I think the number one way folks are going to vote in the booth in November is voting tied to their wallets or their purses.
I think so. The economy remains, I think, the biggest factor.
Yeah.
Particularly inflation, because it's something you feel every day. There's no getting around it. And so in terms of the economic picture, you almost sit there and say it kind of has to. Like, can it get
Worse.
like what could happen in November that could result in like worse scenario for inflation? And at the very least, my suspicion is that the market will react positively to November, particularly if we end up with split government, because the market historically likes split government for the very simple reason that when the government is split, it's very hard for stupid things to pass Washington. So in other words, bad ideas can't really happen because one side or the other is not going to go for it. So nothing getting done. On the one hand, obviously there's no improvements that will come out of it, but nothing getting done also means a lot of dumb ideas that might have been passed won't be passed anymore. So the market tends to like split government.
Is it sad that that's the best thing you can say about our government?
I mean, split government's not a bad thing.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that we have this polar, government that's set up to.
It's the two-party
basically-
system. The two-party system is crippling this country.
Yeah, because
The two-party system is killing
because you
this
either
country.
have stupid ideas or
country.
you have each side stopping the other side.
I mean, dude, like, I hate to even bring up the politics piece.
Yeah.
But, like, the parties as you know them today, and I'm talking strictly Democrat and Republican, you can identify with aspects of their platforms, and I'm talking both in general.
Yeah.
But they're so, like, is the word polarized? They're
pretty
so,
much.
like, extreme versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Where it's like, where's the Reagan and JFK Republican and Democrats? Where's the centrists?
Yeah.
Where's the middle?
It's not even
Where's
a
the
matter of the middle
cooperation?
light. It's just we've lost the ability to do what the old meaning of compromise. Like, unfortunately, like the old meaning of compromise was I give you something you want, you give me something I want. And now, unfortunately, I think we mistake compromise for like you just cave on this. And it's like, well, no, like no one's gonna cave on their things. We don't like do trades anymore. And it's just, so we sit here and the best we can hope for is, it's tied into Judah's point, the best we can hope for is that nothing happens.
Yeah, that's the
At least
best.
from a market perspective.
Let's hope nothing happens. They don't hire any consultants and they stay out of our
That's for
business.
Amen.
Carol Thorpe, Queen of Jack Jewett. Guys, our president keeps saying our economy is in great shape. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen blew the assessment about inflation.
There are
The
also
people at the top, Carol Thorpe says, can't help with policy adjustments when they can't or don't recognize the problems we have. Judah, jump in here.
I was just going to say there are also people saying that our president is in great shape.
You're talking physically? If I know Alex, he's not going to touch that one. I
I
know
don't
Alex
think-
too well to
I don't
know
think I'll touch
he's entirely too
that
smart
one.
to touch that comment right there.
I will say it's not shocking. What president would say,
right.
the economy's really in the tank since I took office?
Right.
You know what I mean? He's going to say everything is great minus inflation.
I gotta say something
And then-
about Joe Biden here. He's halfway through his campaign here, and you got to start asking yourselves, President Biden, what are the things that you've accomplished here in your term as president of this country?
Yeah, well, one
You
of
got to
his,
start asking that question.
his accomplishment might be holding back the tide. Speaking of midterms, I mean,
Is the best thing Joe Biden did keep the United States from getting involved in the Ukrainian-Russian war?
I don't know.
Is that what we're going to say in hindsight? Because a lot of people are saying, send American soldiers over there and let's get them in the mix. And I don't want that. You don't want that. You don't want that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. What were you saying there?
I think I was just going to say, in regards to the midterms, like, it's for me, it's a scary thought that what if everything that we're seeing right now is not the worst of it, and the worst is being held back, so that certain sides look better come midterms.
I hope that's not the case.
I would
So do
hope
I.
so.
I have fear.
would
I'm
hope so,
fearful
too.
of that, but I hope that's not the
Yeah.
case because a lot of people are getting severely hurt
Mm-hmm.
and pushed years behind because of what's happening.
Yeah.
If this
Mm-hmm.
is a game, Travis Danville, King of Danville, and we'll close on this. This is a good one for you. He says current financial and consumer conditions are more similar to the recessions after the Civil War than modern recessions after World War I and World War II.
It's an interesting point, and he is correct in some ways because with the exception of stagflation, right, in the 70s, which is a somewhat different animal because you didn't actually have negative growth, you just have like really slow growth for a long time. Pre-Federal Reserve recessions tended to be inflation caused. In other words, things would get out of whack. Remember, we were also on the gold standard at this time, so things would get out of whack. Recession comes, business cycle regenerates, start over again. So we actually had, prior to 1913 when we created the Federal Reserve, we actually had more frequent recessions, but of a lower magnitude. In other words, they weren't as bad, they weren't as long lasting. Ironically enough, since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, we have had basically a series of we had a massive recession in 1920-21, which ended quickly. Massive recession, obviously lasted a decade, and then in 1929 to basically World War II got us out of that one. Right? Stagflation, and then basically, the 1980-81 recession, you could say, is the result of getting out of stagflation. And then you basically sit there and say the 2008 great financial crisis, massive recession. So to the extent, I would hope that this recession, if we get one, resembles the short
Of World War
readjustment
Is and
of pre-World War I recessions.
Yeah.
The only issue is we remain much more indebted and with a much more active Federal Reserve than we did, obviously, before the existence of the Federal Reserve. So, unfortunately, my philosophy is never, and I hate to say this because I don't like to be cynical, but part of when you grow up in an environment in which you've seen the Federal Reserve make mistake after mistake after mistake. I have not grown up in a world in which the Federal Reserve has not either kept rates too low for too long or made some other error. Like, you almost sit there and say,
You have no confidence.
yeah, in other words, I'll believe that the Federal Reserve won't, I never underestimate the ability of the Federal Reserve to screw this up and actually make this worse than it needs to be in terms of recession. So unfortunately, I just have no confidence that they won't make this a deeper recession or have not already made it a deeper one by the fact that they shot their balance sheet to $4 trillion again, kept rates so low, and now are trying to jack them up halfway and hope that that somehow stops inflation.
You are the financial barometer for so many of us in this area. And trust me, once a week, twice a week, I listen to what you and your father and your family have to say and hold it near and dear. And I hope you're right.
Yeah. So I hope it is a quick correction business cycle, and then that's all that happens.
Same. Mandy is giving you some props, Judah.
Who?
Mandy. Show is yours for Today y Mañana.
Today, mañana, 3 awesome local businesses going to come on and talk. We're going to have on first Grubby Girl Soaps, Amanda from Grubby Girl Soaps, local soap making business.
I like it. I like the brand name.
I know. I thought it was an interesting touch.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to ask her the genesis of the name. Then we'll have back on the Jim Seville.
Nice.
Talked about they got a new trainer, new gym manager there. So Justin's coming on again. So he's the head trainer there, and then there's
He's
a new
the
gym
Jack
manager.
guy.
Yep.
Diesel.
Yep,
And
exactly.
a very inspiring individual.
He is very
Yeah.
much so. So I'm looking forward to that. I missed the last one that he was on when he was on with Nick and Xavier, and then also Jeff Camrath from Aqua Seville Hand Car Washington to join us. So, and I always learn a lot when we pick Jeff's brain as well as an entrepreneur. So
Jeff Camrath in studio Thursday?
Yep.
Oh, I love when Jeff is here.
Same here.
Jeff Camrath, guys. So his show, he co-hosts with Xavier Erpy, and it's called Today y Mañana, and it's presented by Emergent Financial Services, and it's just absolutely dynamite. It is in the running for best podcast according to the Seville Weekly. We encourage you to cast your votes for Today y Mañana,
Yeah.
Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love Seville network. They do a phenomenal job of showcasing the community with a positive lens. And they have undoubtedly become the voice of the small business owner as the small business owner is fighting for their lives post-pandemic. And they champion the small business owner with positivity and utilize their show as an outlet to attract awareness and new customers to the businesses.
I almost see it as giving them giving small business owners here the platform to let their voices shine. Because I could never sell their businesses with the passion and the intensity and the knowledge that they do it. So I love the idea that we give them a place where they can come and share both the good, like come support us, come do this, and also like the bad, like people should know
This is what we've learned.
this is what we go through.
Yeah.
And if you see like higher prices, it's not this is we're some greedy small business owners in
Right.
your community. It's because this is what we're facing.
Yeah, yeah. So Today y Mañana is like the confessional for entrepreneurship in this community. It's like Alex and Xavier, the priests, the
Except
mom and
no
pops.
seal, I guess it's public.
Yeah, right. Except no seal. It's very public. And the entrepreneurs come and talk to Alex and Xavier and say, here are the trials and tribulations. Here's what we did well, and here's what we could do better. And the show is dynamite. I mean, they just have blossomed into exceptional broadcasters, the both of them. Will we see the married
that.
man on Thursday?
So in fact, we either Nicholas or Mike, we haven't decided yet. Does it Xavier's got some work? He's got some.
Xavier's not going to be here?
Yeah, he's not going to be here on
Dang,
Thursday.
Xavier.
Because he's got some clients to take care of to help, and so either Nick or Xavier will either see the married man or Michael.
Okay.
Will
How's the
join
married
us.
man doing?
He's very happy.
Yeah?
He's enjoying, I think, his first foray into
Marriage.
married life.
Okay, I can't wait to ask him. Nicholas Erpe is now married. Alex Erpe is the CEO of Emergent Financial Services, all-around A-plus guy.
Thank you
The
for
show
that.
he co-hosts is called Today y Mañana, and it airs Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Appreciate it.
Judah, you did a great job today. Thank you,
you.
per usual, Judah Woodcower. For those that wanted to hear these topics, we'll save them for tomorrow. Airbnb's impact on housing affordability. We'll also discuss a University of Virginia golfer will play in the U.S. Open.
Awesome.
The premier U.S. golf tournament. And in an RVA apartment complex, Chesterfield County to be exact,
Doubled in
2x
price.
in price in 5 years. From $40 million in 2017 to $80 million, it just sold. 2x in price in 5 years, an apartment complex in Chesterfield County. Think about that.
Does that mean the rent prices there are going to double?
I mean, I think they already have.
Yeah.
I think in
You
5
realize
years.
you buy that stuff usually for the cash flow.
You're buying it for the
so
rent
imagine
rolls.
you've been collecting the cash flow on
Yeah.
the rent, and now you then get 100% capital gain on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, two at 100% capital gain on top of that.
Yeah, right? So we'll talk about that tomorrow on the show. It's the I Love Seville show. For Judah Woodcower and Alex Erpe, I'm Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Well done, Alex.
Oh, thank you guys.